guys? I hope you're having a fantastic day. Welcome back to the channel. It's been a little while since we last talked, and I wanted to take a minute to give you a little bit of an update, let you know what I've been working on. We've got a lot of stuff going on with the Durango, got a little bit of stuff going on with the WJ, got a lot of stuff going on with the family, so it's taken me a little bit of time to find the time to get out here and get some of this stuff done, but we are making progress. I apologize for the delay. Stay tuned. Let me bring you up to speed on what we got going on. All right, so just like all of you, I'm sure you're getting ready for the holidays. I'm sure you had a lot going on. We made it out to LB Hills for that trail run. At this point, back a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving even. So since then, had a lot going on. I ended up getting sick for a little bit too. That kind of slowed progress. And of course, I gave it to my wife, who then also was down for the count for a little while. So we've had a lot going on between full-time jobs, the family, and everything else. But we have been making progress, so that's a good thing. That's all we can hope for. As far as the Durango goes, we've got a lot of stuff that we've got in to keep working on. So I sent off some parts for the 799 heads that we're building. As a reminder, this has an LQ4 6-liter LS in it. We're going to run 799 heads, which are off of a 5.3 liter. And so those heads are going to be machined, and we've got some fresh springs, retainers, things like that going into those heads. So those are actually being built as we speak. The parts are with the machine shop, and those things are getting taken care of. When those come back to us, we're going to take the engine out. It's going to go over to a friend of mine who does a lot of engine work, and he's going to give us a hand getting in the cam and a number of other little goodies that are going to go into the engine as well. But in the meantime, I needed it inside the Durango for a little bit of mock-up. What we're doing right now is getting the floor in. Over the last couple of weeks, I have had a chance to get some more of the floor in. So I have had some time to get a little bit more of the floor in. And it just takes a little bit of time to do that sometimes, as far as getting the frame laid out where it's going to be. And part of that was making sure that these headers were in where they needed to be. So those are all finished up, and it gives us an idea of where the exhaust is going to run. It needs to stay within a certain area so that we can actually get the floor laid down. But then also the seats need to be in the proper position so that we've got our pedal controls and steering wheel and everything else going in to the right location. So the floor does take a little bit of time. That, and to some extent when I'm doing it, kind of feels like it's floating out in space. We've got a brand new center console going in. And when I say brand new, we're custom fabricating a full center console for this, which means when I say this feels like it's floating out in space a little bit, and then got to figure out how to kind of make all of this stuff connect in and build in the floor. Now, what I did end up doing is there's a top rail that now goes along this on both sides, because that's going to give us just enough space for the exhaust to run underneath it. And keep the floor elevated slightly. We've then also tied in the back here. We have these support bars in the rear that tie into the rear main hoop. And then all of this stuff is fully welded now. So the joints at the back, that's all set. This center console, most of it's fully welded. There's a couple of little spots here and there, but for the most part, that is all in and set and ready to go. So the next steps are, we've got some crossbars I need to put in for the floor, and then there's a couple of more pieces that we need here to kind of connect the center console to the floor. But once we've gotten that done and the framework is laid, then we're going to go to town on getting it covered, which should be pretty straightforward in terms of the sheets that we need to put down. And the motor is going to come back out. The T-case is going to come out. That needs to get the triple shifter put on it, and it has to be out of here in order to do that. We've got a clutch and the flywheel that needs to go in as well. So we'll pull all of this out while the motor's out, getting its stuff done. And that'll give us some time to finish up the floor and get everything situated. So part of that is that we needed some seats. I've had the stock Durango seats sitting here from quite some time, and I thought that I was going to use those, and I've actually carted them around to far too many places to ultimately not end up using them anyways. But we're not going to use the stock Durango seats. Instead, we're going to use these. pumped on these seats. So I talked to NRG a little bit because I was looking for a set of seats that were really going to fit me properly. And I've looked at a lot of different manufacturers. I wanted something a little bit different that wasn't something that everyone else was running. But I wanted something that was going to be comfortable, but also really race ready for me, and something that was super supportive. So what I really liked about NRG, and big thanks to those guys for all the help over there and getting me set up with the right size, is that they have different sizes. And you know, I think we're all different in our shape and the way that things fit. So this is actually a medium seat. And what I like about it is it just fits me exactly the way that I need it to fit. So being someone who's actually 5'7" and about 180 pounds, I have a little bit broader upper section. And so like my back in particular and just my shoulders are a little bit more broad when it comes to fitting in the seat. But I'm also not going to fit in a large because I'm only 5'7", so I'm not going to need something that's, you know, built for somebody who's more like 6 foot. So being able to stick something in here that's a medium seat that fits me well, but also get a large for, you know, a co-dog or somebody who's going to be riding with me, was awesome. And these are actually a waterproof seat, which is also great because I'm not always going to have windows up in the buggy. The Durango is going to have half doors a lot of the times. And if I'm doing some racing and different things, the windshields are probably coming right out of it anyways. So not to think too far ahead on it, but you want something that's going to be comfortable, but also going to be race ready and hold me in. It comes with the ability to use 5-point harnesses with the seat and this bolster at the bottom there. So I'm really pumped about that. I really like the composite to the seat, and just the way all of this is set up. So now we have the seats that we're running, have the seat brackets so that we can get those mounted. And that really just helps a lot with getting the floor situated. It was part of the thing that I was running into, is trying to estimate where the floor is going to end up, where you're going to sit. The way that an SUV typically sits, or the way that the Durango is going to sit, is not the same as the way, you know, a sports car sits. However, getting seats mounted in there like this, and then where we're going to put the pedals and everything else, it actually is going to sit a little bit more like a sports car would, or a buggy, for that matter, over the way that like a factory Durango is going to sit. A good example is, like a 4Runner, a Cherokee, a Tacoma. Anytime you have that, you usually have a little bit of a drop down below the seat. The seat kind of sits up on a pedestal a little bit more, and your legs kind of reach down to the pedals, where in this case, it's going to be more flush straight across. The other aspect of that is getting the seat situated in a proximity to the cage where it's comfortable, but where I'm also not going to end up hitting my head on one of the crossbars at the top. And I also want enough visibility out the front windshield. So a big part of what I think about when I'm building this is, you know, am I going to be able to see the things that I'm headed for, the obstacles? We're probably going to use an expanded steel in the floorboards below the pedals so that we can see what's up ahead of the tires. I'm probably not going to put a solid panel there. I want to be able to see up there. So these are little things that I'm thinking about. But that said, we've got the parts in, we've got the seats in, we've got the stuff that we need for the engine, and we're making progress on the floor. So I'm super pumped about that. So little update on the WJ. We did end up taking that up to a cabin that we have in the Blue Mountains in Oregon, and we did a little bit of wheeling with it, but nothing too crazy. Didn't get much footage because we just enjoyed some time with the family. That and no snow had fallen. We were hoping that there was going to be a bunch of snow at the time, but there just wasn't. One of the things I ran into, and I think it's a little odd, I mentioned that before we went and did the King of Elby run, that it needed new ball joints. Found that all the ball joints pretty much in the front axle were all shot. So we got new ball joints put in, and with the short time frame, I had a shop around here help me out. Now, I haven't replaced all of those at once on something before. Not necessarily like that. You know, the Durango here's got kingpins up front. But I will say that when I first built it with the original ball joints, I took it in just to get it aligned when I got the wheels and tires set up, just to make sure that it was good to go. And he said, didn't even charge you for an alignment. You were less than a 1/16 of an inch off. So there wasn't really much for us to adjust. And from that point on, all summer when we had it on the road, everything else, that thing went straight down the road. The steering wheel was completely straight. I had no bump steer, no death wobble, nothing. It handled phenomenally. So it was a little crazy to get brand new ball joints on it and now feel like the steering is very loose, and the steering feels like it's very loose. So I'm not sure why that is. The other thing that I found odd is they couldn't get the steering wheel aligned again. Maybe it's because I did have such kind of like high margins for error when I built it with the original ball joints. But the steering wheel is almost, let's say, 2/3 off to the left-hand side, or at least a quarter of a turn to the left while it's going straight down the road. So I think that that's a little odd with ball joints. I know that things kind of come out of alignment a little bit with the knuckle and where you're going to line it up. My theory on that is that I can drop the pitman arm and find the center of the steering wheel again and then reinstall the pitman arm, because there's, I don't know, 32 splines, something like that on there. And so that should allow me, in theory, in my head, to get the steering wheel in the center again, and then get that pitman arm back on there so it's full lock to lock, left to right. Unless I'm missing something that I can't think of. The shop itself said, well, we couldn't align it because there wasn't enough threads on the drag link to unwind it and center the steering wheel, but I don't see how that would be the issue. That's more aligning it from side to side. So I just need to play with it a little bit. I did take it back to them because originally they said, well, we didn't have enough time to align it. We need some different cone washers and we're gonna figure that out. Well, I took it back and they didn't do anything with it, and they said they just couldn't align it. Again, I kind of find that to be odd. They have all the tools and the technology there. There should be no reason why you can't align something. Maybe I do need to cut down the drag link. Maybe that's ultimately what it is the drag link needs a little bit more thread ability to be able to adjust that. Maybe I did build it a little bit too long and there's no adjustability there, but I'm not positive. So either way, that's something I need to get handled. I'm still driving the WJ almost every day on the road. It's my daily driver, so I don't love that it's got the steering wheel's off a little bit and it feels sloppy to me. I don't like the slop. It was super tight before that. The other thing is they crushed my steering stabilizer. And again, this was before King of LB, but whatever they were doing in there, they actually crushed the entire steering stabilizer. They put a giant dent in it. And I'm not sure how they did that either. Luckily I had a spare, threw a spare on there. They paid for a new one. But it was just kind of an odd experience. And so I've got to get in there and figure out what that is. But it's like 8 degrees out today. And it's been pretty cold here and I'm not really feeling like getting under the Jeep. So not doing that right now. The other thing that happened while we were up at our cabin is it was real cold, went out, started the Jeep, let it warm up. The windows were still kind of iced. And of course, I hit the window buttons to put down the windows so that I could see where I was going after letting the Jeep heat up for a little bit. So I thought it was fine. But I immediately heard the passenger side window regulator snap. So it's like the third one I've replaced in a year. Both the rear ones have been replaced at this point. I think the driver one is one of the first ones I ever did, so I think that one's fine for right now. But I picked up another window regulator for the passenger side front window, and that's got to get done eventually too. The other thing is the Jeep kind of just needs to be gone through a little bit. Since the 1-ton build, and it was done very fast so that we could use it for the summer, we got to use it for the summer. I've now taken it out on a good trail ride. It's going to have some more coming up soon. But there's some things that I just need to do to update it. I mentioned before that I did some coil spring retainers. Those worked awesome. That's been really good. But one of the things that I need to look at is the clearances in the back and where the rear truss runs into the skid plate for the fuel tank. And I think realistically that the fuel tank needs to be moved back a little bit. I think that it's touching it slightly I really don't think it's that big of a deal. It may not actually be touching it as much as I think that it is, because I did chop out a bunch of that before, and I'll show you that here real quick too. But so it may be a little hard to tell, especially just from this angle and where it's at. Also, it's freezing out here, but you can see right here, I took a big cut out of the corners of that rear truss, and I did it on the other side as well, primarily because it was hitting up here on the skid plate. Now moved back enough, I don't think I really have that issue anymore, but that skid plate still got to come down, and we need to fix the evap canister situation we have going on here as well. Let's see, you can kind of see that it's tucked up inside here. So when we do that, we may move the fuel tank back a little bit, but we'll see what happens. The WJ isn't a priority right now. I cut out a bunch of the spots on the truss that it was rubbing. But one of the things that I am having an issue with is some of the hoses came off of the evap canister, and that evap canister is tucked up between the tank and the piece of metal that I welded into where the old tire carrier was. So I've got to drop the fuel tank anyways so that I can reconnect those hoses. Every time someone walked past the Jeep while we were out on the trail, they'd stop and listen. Go, is your tire deflating? And I thought, no, that's not the tire deflating. It's what sounds like a vacuum line from the evap canister disconnected. So you can hear it a lot. It throws an engine code. It's really not a big deal. That's pretty much it. So I do want to get that taken care of. I just like all those lines hooked up. I don't know that there's a way to delete it. I've looked it up a bit. I think if I delete it, it's just going to keep throwing the check engine light, and there's enough space for it. It's just I need all that stuff connected. So it looks like one of the hoses popped off somewhere down there. I just can't get up there and get it back on the way that it is. So gonna have to drop the fuel tank and take care of that. I'd like to get a rear bumper on there sooner than later as well. It still has the factory, or I guess, I don't know if it's a factory, but it's kind of like the standard trailer hitch in the back. We're going to use the brackets from that to build a bumper and get that going. But the Jeep is kind of on the back burner right now. It runs and drives. It goes down the road. I'm not worried about a check engine light. And we're having fun with it. We're taking it off-road. We're taking it different places. And you'll see some of that here soon as well, because I got a couple of things coming up that we want to do. But the big thing that I want to get done is this Durango. So that's the next steps. Get this Durango done. I need to get the floor finished so I can get the pedals mounted and the steering wheel in. And it's a lot of plumbing work after that. All the stuff for the trans and the T-case is all here. We've got all that, and it just is going to go back together once the engine's done. Because I'm asking for some help with the engine from the buddy down the road. He'll be able to help me out with that, and hopefully that'll help kind of wrap this up a little bit faster. We are using the Terminator X, so as far as wiring and flashing and ECU, I don't have to do all of that. It does come with a wiring harness, and that's going to hopefully help speed up this process a little bit. But that's kind of the update for now. We're going to get the floor into this and get that done. Need to get these seats mounted now that we've got them. And just keep hammering away. So that's the goal right now. It's freezing cold outside most of the time. I managed to heat up the garage a little bit and get that going. But I wanted to apologize for not having made a video for quite a few weeks now. Didn't want you to think I forgot about you, but super busy back here. Lots going on, lots to get done. Super excited to share more with you guys. If you've got questions, if you've got suggestions, I'm always open to it. So just stay tuned, and hopefully I'll have some more for you real soon, and we'll be able to get this thing wrapped up. I've got something in February that I'd like to get out to. I think I'm really pushing it on that at this point, but hopefully I'll have a buddy of mine coming out and giving me a hand. But that's kind of the goal right now. I think February is what we're aiming for. We'd like to take the Durango to an event, so fingers crossed we make that happen. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.